Hey everyone, I'm Kenny Wallace, and this is my YouTube administrator, dear friend Charlie Marlow. Charlie's a professional. I love being around you, and thank you for doing all you do. Charlie is good at what he does, and we're going to start a little show here. You're going to hit me with all the big topics going on in auto racing or whatever it is. So, are we ready to get going?
Let's do it. All right, so, and we've talked about this. This is a huge year for NASCAR. A lot to talk about as we approach and get ready for Daytona. But first, it seems like this week specifically, with the testing, a lot of talk about this new car. So tell folks why this car is different.
You're right, Charlie. This is probably one of the biggest years in NASCAR history. Now, we've said these things before, 10 years ago, biggest year in NASCAR history. But truly everything on the line right now. So they have this car out called the Next Gen, Next Generation. The thought behind this car was, Rick Hendrick, Jack Roush, Roger Penske, Richard Childress, all these great car owners came to NASCAR, and the car that they've been running cost a lot of money, man-hour laborers. You kind of had to mold these cars in the past, and just too much money involved. So the car owners told NASCAR their problem. NASCAR decided to do something about it. So the Next Gen is a car that's built in Michigan, and you can literally get on the computer and say, hey, I'm approved. I'd like to order one car. Charlie, they will send you this new Next Gen car. You can pick it up. They'll send it to you in a crate. And now everybody can bolt this car together. The thought there is, yes, there's a lot of money up front, but this car is going to allow the teams to be a little more level. They're hoping to bring a little more competition, hoping that it's going to save the team money. So this is a reaction, Charlie, this Next Gen car. This is a reaction to the car owners going to NASCAR. So that's why this is such a big year. Failure is not an option, because if this car doesn't do what we need it to do, this is it. So they've been doing a lot of testing. Everything I've seen looks good.
So how about the look of the car? I remember going back to the Car of Tomorrow days. I was covering some racing at Michigan International Speedway at the time. I was working in Lansing, and it seemed like there was a backlash about the look of that car and what the spoiler. So are fans going to like the look of this car, you think?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the reason that's a great question is because we are used to a NASCAR race car looking a certain way. And then all of a sudden, NASCAR said, we're going to change the look of this car dramatically. They had this rear spoiler so our spoiler that we know of, just a simple spoiler, a blade, they got rid of that and they put in what they call a wing. It was like off of an Indy car. The fans are like, this is what separates our full-bodied cars from Indy cars. Indy cars run wings. Stock cars don't run wings. So that car was pretty much a disaster. But now that car was also, you got to remember, that car was a reaction to the death of Dale Sr. There was a thought that we need to make these cars safer, and they did. But it was an ugly car, and the fans didn't like it. So then you go on, and the car evolves, and now here we are. Now, when I say NASCAR's changed a lot, Charlie, they've even changed the look of this car. Now the number is in the front of the door, which gives the whole door all this look to put your sponsor. So now say my number is 36. Number 36 would go right behind the front tire. And then let's say my sponsor was Anheuser-Busch. Then you could take the whole door, which is a lot more space than in the past. And it gives the sponsors, the companies, a bigger bang for their buck. You can clearly see it better. So this car is dramatically changed. It's a new car. It's a new look, and it looks good. Everybody does like this car. And I will say I like what NASCAR did because they rolled this car out over 3 years. The fans have been looking at this new Next Gen car. You have. You all have been looking at this car for 3 years, and they've been changing it, and you've been following along. So I think this is less of a blow to the fans. They've been following it. And then, like you said, they've been testing at Daytona. And they've been side by side, and it looks good.
So, and the car you said is cheaper. I know there was a lot of talk about also Jacques Villeneuve
Yes.
trying to run in Daytona. And he basically said in that press conference I watched that you can kind of get it off the shelf almost.
Yeah.
You can buy the car that way. So is it going to be easier for folks like that to try to enter the world of NASCAR, you think?
So great observation. But let me clear one thing up that needs to be cleared up. It is taking a lot of money to change this over. So it is true that it's more expensive right now. It's like you and I losing weight, and now we got to buy all new clothes, right? But the reason the car owners are happy to spend the money because they know for a fact this car is going to be cheaper. Now, the question about Jacques Villeneuve, Formula One champion, Indy 500 champion, we call these drivers world-class drivers. Whenever you win in Formula One, see, Formula One races in a different country every month. They could be in Japan, they could be in Dubai, they're everywhere. So when you win a Formula One championship, you get tagged world-class because it means you race all over the world. So Jacques Villeneuve is going to make an effort to qualify for the Daytona 500. Now, whether you think it's a wasted effort or not, that's not the point. The point is that a world-class driver who has done so much came to test at Daytona, caught the media off guard, and Jacques said, well, the reason we're doing this is because we've never had this opportunity. We get on the internet, we order a car, and now we bolt it together. That's unheard of. And the car will look the same as Brad Keselowski's or Denny Hamlin. So it's an exciting moment. There are new teams. Denny Hamlin has started a new team. His business partner is Michael Jordan. So you got Michael Jordan, Denny Hamlin. They started with Bubba Wallace. Now they started a second car. The second driver is Kurt Busch, Kyle's brother. So as soon as we condemn NASCAR, all of a sudden all these new teams are announcing. I mean, Team Trackhouse, which is Pitbull, the entertainer. So Pitbull is friends with another guy. So the bottom line is this: as much as we think NASCAR is failing, all these teams they're gaining teams left and right because this is a good business model. These companies like this business model.
And I also saw that Dale Jr. did a press conference, and then there were some articles about would he get back into Cup, would he run Daytona? But you were saying that was more so because he's such a media personality and he brings so many eyeballs to the sport. He can also talk better about the car if he goes and tests it.
Yeah, great observation. So, you know me, I'm never one to mince words. I'll say it the way I think it, in a nice way. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is our face in NASCAR. There's always a saying, nobody's bigger than the sport. Michael Jordan was, basketball was bigger than Michael Jordan. Well, let's see what happens if you get rid of Michael Jordan. I mean, Wayne Gretzky for hockey. So there are those athletes that are game changers. To this day, Dale Earnhardt Jr. does not race anymore. But the people and the fans are so intrigued because, let's face it, his father, Dale Sr., was bigger than life. It is true that when we lost Dale Sr., NASCAR, around 2006, 2007, we lost Dale Sr. in 2001. 2006 is when NASCAR, that was the highest level of NASCAR, 2006. And then 2007, it went downhill. But everybody, including me, we love Dale Jr. He went to military school because Dale Sr. sent him. He's very educated. The media loves him because as we say in the media business, what gets hits? Dale Jr. will get more hits than a champion driver right now. You can say Joey Logano won the championship. All right, here's Dale Jr. at home. 100% of fans want to talk to Dale Jr. at home in his pajamas. So Dale Jr. said, hey, I'm going to go to Daytona. He did it a little bit ago with his friend and car owner, Rick Hendrick. And Dale Jr. said, I'm going to practice this car. So when he gets on NBC, he works for NBC. he's more knowledgeable. And boy, he gave us some good information, Charlie, after that test. Dale Jr. said, hey, the car kind of sits here, it doesn't get these big runs. So I believe NASCAR has a good thing going on in Dale Jr. I really kind of think that Dale Jr. is the voice of NASCAR.